um, if you did just get on, this outline that I'm going to go over is on the topics page if you want to record it. Also, I did a breakdown on all the practice quiz that's posted on the topics page also. All right. The demand for labor is derived. All right. So we call that derived demand. So the demand for labor comes from the products they help make. So therefore, the demand for pizza makers has to do with how many pizzas you sell. The demand for cheese has to do with how many pizzas you sell. The demand for assembly line workers is how many cars you sell. The profit, the competitive profit maxima. So in perfect competition, MPL times P equals VMPL. Now, VMPL and MRP are the same, and MPL and MP are the same. Our textbook just happens to use MPL. Okay. There seems to be, okay. There was some back. So again, in the competitive market, in perfect competition, MPL times P equal VMPL. Now, VMPL has to be equal to or greater than MRC, which is wages in perfect competition, right? And then we have this chart down here. MPL or MPP or MP, they're all the same. And they're like any margin. We're going to take 100 minus 0. And for the first unit, it would be 100. And then 180 minus 100 would be 80. Now, let's just do, and this one didn't line up correctly, but let's just, if here, if the MP is 100, and I know MP times price equals MPL, VMPL, right? So it's 100 times price, which is X. So it's 100X equals 1,000. Sorry for my 1,000 here, but 100X equals 1,000. I then know the price is $10. All right. Again, 100 minus 0 gives me 100. They give me the VPML is 1,000. I know MPL times price equals VMPL. So therefore 100 times 10 equals 1,000. If the wages are 500, the marginal profit is going to be 1,000. That's the revenue the worker brought in minus how much I have to pay him, 500. So that would give me a profit of 500. And, you know, obviously you could go down the chart. And there's a couple of charts like this on the practice quiz, and I would fill out everything because those same charts are going to be on your actual quiz. All right, define marginal product of labor. It's the increase of output from an additional input, which is usually labor. Increase in amount of output from an additional input, which is usually labor. Okay. And, you know, if you're looking at the MPL, it's like, if you look at that chart from 1 to 2, it's the additional output 80 for the additional input of labor going from 1 to 2. So that would have been, okay. Diminishing marginal product, we know, we've done that before in previous units. It's as you add more labor or as you add more inputs to a fixed resource, marginal product will decline. So as you add more inputs to a fixed resource, marginal product will decline. Okay. All right. The value of marginal product is MP times P in perfect competition. And I have to say, for this quiz, it's all going to be perfect competition. Okay, so it's MP times P. But if it wasn't perfect competition, and we'll learn that Tuesday, it's the change in total revenue over the change in input. All right, MP times P is VMPL, and or the change in total revenue over the change in input. Okay, either one of those in perfect competition, they both work. The change in total revenue over change in input works in non-perfect competition. What shifts the demand curve? One, output price, because if VMPL is going to be MP times price, a change in price is going to make the VMPL increase and shift demand. Productivity, which is technology, which is often technology, and augmented technology. What augmented technology means, it's technology that improves the worker, not replaces the worker. So you have output price, productivity, parentheses, technology. Now, I think that's the trickiest one, because in the product market, that goes under rat nest. And here in the labor market, it's going under demand, and then substitutes. So those are the shifters of demand. Now, if you looked at, I think the next thing is the supply of labor, which is the trade-off between leisure and work. So, at any wage, so if the wage is $10, if you decide to go to work, you're saying making $10 an hour is more important than an hour off. And if you decide to take an hour off, you're saying that leisure is more important than the $10. They then talk about the shifts of the labor market. And one would be like change in taste. And by that, they'll say society changes, like more women in the workplace, people working to an older age. That might be change in taste. Change in alternative opportunities. So I thought I went fast there. So change in taste, again, could be like women in the workforce, people working to an older age. Change in alternative opportunities. Say the wages in Baltimore City for teachers decline. So teachers will now look to Baltimore County to work as teachers to get higher wages. So that can increase the supply of teachers in Baltimore County. That would be like alternative. And then immigration is more of an example of number of workers. Anything that would increase the number of workers. And you could say some of the change in taste, well, women in the workforce definitely increase the number of workers. People working to an older age would increase the number of workers. All right. All right. Now, how does labor supply? All right. Let me see. Could I just draw? Right. And really, again, for this quiz, you really only need to know the industry's supply curve. Okay. Let's just call this W1, Q. Let's shift it. All right, so the first thing, like there's one of these graphs on your practice quiz. All I would say is make sure you read S1 to S2 or S2. So you make sure you read which way the graph is going. Now, is it going S1 to S2, which means supply of workers are increasing, or is it going from S2 to S1, which means the supply is decreasing? All right. So here, let's just go with the supply increase. So let's say 1 million workers come into the United States, and as workers come into the United States, supply increases, but temporarily we're still at wage one, right? Because we haven't adjusted immediately. So you're at S2 and temporarily, wages is one, and you have this surplus of workers. And since you have all these workers looking for jobs, wage decreases to W2, and then you have your new equilibrium. And we kind of did things like that when we did supply and demand first, right? And the same thing would happen with demand. And again, look to see, is it, demand one, or so like, if that was D1 here, and then we go to D2, just make sure which way the curves are going in the questions. Okay, so that is wage one. And again, let's say the price of the output goes up and you're getting to where demand is, at D2, but temporarily we're still at W1. You're going to have a shortage of workers, right? Because you need to be at D2. So what's going to happen? You're going to have to increase wages to get more workers, and that would be there. Okay. The next thing they talked about is productivity and wages. And again, MP times P equal V MPL. So if productivity goes up, right, the VMPL, which is really the revenue the workers bringing into the firm, is going to increase. So making them more valuable and therefore shifting the demand for workers and increasing wages. So the more productive you are, the higher wages you're going to earn. And then the last really thing, because you don't have to know the economies of the Black Death, the last thing among linkage is resource factors can influence demand. So what do I mean by that? I mean that if he uses the thing, if I'm an apple picker and there's a shortage of ladders, then the demand for apple pickers are going to go down because you don't have enough ladders for the apple pickers to use. All right. And just like if I'm a painter and there's a shortage of paint, the demand for painters are going to decrease because, why hire all these painters if you don't have paint for them? Okay. So that's basically the chapter. I'm now going to flash up the practice quiz. And if anyone has questions on either the chapter or the practice quiz, you could turn on your mic, or you could just type them into the chat. You could type a number of a question you want me to answer in the chat, or anything on the chapter you would like answered. No one? Not one question? Can you answer number 3? Yes. I'd also say for Lucas, for these charts, I would fill in all the charts. But number 3 is, what is the value of DD? So hold on, let me find DD. Oh, it's okay, it's here. All right. So the first thing, Lucas, is MPL times price equals VMPL. So I know 300 times X equals 600. So the price must be $2. So I'll just put 2 here. All right. I'm going to get CC by 650 minus 600 is going to give me 50. Okay. And then I know 50 times 2 is going to give me 100. So the answer is going to be C as in Caroline, 100. Lucas, did that make sense to you? Okay, great. And, you know, while I'm at it, I could fill out the rest of this chart just to give you guys. So then the 200 times 2 would give me 400 for AA. And then if VMPL is 200 and the wage is 300, it'd be minus 100 for BB. So, I mean, that's that chart. But I would fill them all out to make sure you could do them. Anyone else with any other questions on the practice quiz that you'd like me to go over? Number 6. All right, so let me scroll down if I can to number 6. Oh, there it is. All right, let's just move this box over here from that. All right, labor augmented technology. All right, so that's a demand shifter. All right, the one labor augmented technology is going to make you more productive. So I1 is going to be good. It's not going to decrease productivity, so I2 is not good. Because you're more productive, demand is going to shift right, and it's not going to decrease productivity. So it's going to be 1 and 3, which is C. Did that make sense to you, Kevin? Okay, Luca, I'll do 10 and 11. Okay, just easier for me because of my eye. All right. Refer to figure 18.6, the shift of the labor of the demand curve. All right, so we got a rightward shift of demand. So a change in workers' attitude, a change in the workers' attitudes, so that's a supply shifter. B, a decrease in the wages in other markets is a supply shifter. C, an increase in the price of a firm's output. Well, MP times P is VMPL, and that's what demand is equal to VMPL. So an increase in the price would shift demand to the right. All right. Luca, did 10 make sense to you that way? Okay. Then, Luca, I forgot what's this one. 11 is the shift of the labor supply curve from S. All right, so we got a rightward shift here, a change in workers' attitudes, that is a supply shift, a decrease in wages, and yes, because like again, if people in Baltimore City, their wages are down, Baltimore County's gonna have hire more, so that would be immigrants, that's number of workers, so it's all of the above. And I would remember A, B, and C, because there's a good chance in question, you know, the question you get on the quiz either shifts you the other way using one of them, or they use one of them as a supply shifter. Did that clear up 10 and 11 for you, Luca? Okay. Anyone else with any questions on anything in the unit or anything on the practice quiz they would like me to go over? 8. Let me get to 8, Evan. All right, 7 and 8. All right, so I think they work together, right? So again, I'd be very big at going over all these. What is the value of marginal product for the second worker? All right, so let me just get a marker here. All right, so I know that 380 minus 200 is the marginal product. So that would be 180. And what did they say the golf balls were? 250. So I know MPL times price is VMPL. So 180 times 250 is 360 is 450. So 7 is B as in broccoli. Noah, did that make sense to you? Okay. And again, Noah, like everyone else, I'd fill out this whole chart because it's going to be on there. Yeah, Austin, let me just get 8 and I'll go over that again, the linkage. I refer to table 18.4. What is the marginal profit of the fourth worker? All right. So I've got 680 minus what do I have here? I have 680 minus 540. So I have 140 here. Right. And if I times that by 250, that's 350, right? And they said the wage is 325. So that's 350 minus 325. That gives me 25 as a profit. Evan, you good now with that? Did that make sense to you? All right. Austin, all they mean with the linkage and the factors of production is that if certain resources change, it could change the demand. Like the book used, if we need apple pickers to pick apples off the tree, but the resource, like the ladders, there's a shortage of ladders, the demand for apple pickers would go down because you didn't have enough ladders for them. So the same could be said, like, if there's a shortage of sauce, you're going to need less pizza makers because you're going to not have sauce to make the pizza. Did that make sense to you, Austin? Guys have, and again, there's another table, I think, somewhere that you guys should fill out. Any other questions you guys have?
Yeah, I had a question.
What?
For number 8, you said the answer was A because the marginal product of the fourth is 350 and the wage is 325, so it's 25 extra.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And I got that from going 680 minus 540 got me the MPL of 140. They gave me the price of 250. So that's 140 minus 250 gave me 350, and they gave you the wage of 325. And again, the wage would be 325 for all of them. Any other questions? I mean, if I was predicting the quiz, there looks like there'll be 6 questions on the chart. The supply and demand questions are 8. I don't know where they're coming up with other questions. So then maybe there'll be more questions on the chart. All right. I did a breakdown of the quiz video. I'll be in the ARC probably 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 5th tomorrow. If you need anything, and I'm doing the review before school. All right. Any other questions before we sign off?
What day is it tomorrow?
Tomorrow's day 5. I think that's what you meant.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow. And thank you for joining me.